Hey, welcome to Stratbase. Let me show you around. To make a new account, just go to the login screen and you can log in with Steam. Now, if you don't have an account already, that will create the account for you just like that. Now, it might ask you to add your email and set a password. I'd recommend doing that just in case Steam has any issues at any point in the future. Now, Stratbase has three plans. Nades only, which is, as it says on the tin, just gives you access to our Pro Nade database. It also has the individual plan, which gives you the Pro Nade database and the demo viewer. And then the team plan, which is if you really want to take your team to the next level, and that gives you so much more. It gives you the strat editor, it gives you documents, it gives you game plans. Now, if you're going to be hopping on the team plan on the left here, it'll give you the option to create a team from the sidebar. Once you've done that, you'll get this team dashboard here. And on the right-hand side here, you have the option to invite members, and you can either do that from a direct Steam link, or you can just search your friends list. If your Steam profile is public, then we'll show you all of your Steam friends here. You can just hit the invite button and it'll send an invite right to their notification tray down here. Now, looking at the sidebar, there's lots to dive into here, so let's get started. We'll start up in the Pro section and we'll go to the Pro Nade database. Now, this is a pretty revolutionary system. It automatically scans all of the Pro demos that come into the Stratbase system, extracts all the Nade lineups, and then groups them by similarity. And that means anytime we have a Nade thrown a certain amount of times, we automatically record a video for it. So this Nade database stays completely up to date with the meta of what the pros are using right now. You can see the map selections here on the left-hand side, and you've got filters by utility type at the top right. Now, if we look at one of these nades here, we can see, first of all, we've got ratings as an option here. Now, you can like these, you can dislike them, and we will use that to improve the Nade database as things go on, but crucially, liking them saves them for you to be able to access later. Now, we've added a couple of things to make it a bit easier for you to see as well. We keep the crosshair from the player in the demo, but sometimes these can be kind of hard to see. This one's not too bad, but we've added a crosshair overlay, and so you can see a crisp crosshair, just a very generic observer type crosshair that you can view the nade from. Now, along with the nade lineup here, you'll see this Molotov being thrown, fairly standard one for jungle in mid. We also now have the option to see where the Molotov lands, or the nade in general lands. So we've come up with a system that figures out the best viewpoint to be able to see the target of where the nade lands, and you can see that in that video there. So this means you don't have to go into game to figure out where this nade lands. Now, you've got options here at the top right. A couple of these, like this one, are an admin setting, so we'll ignore that one, but we've got copy setpos. You can click that and straight away copy to your clipboard. You can paste that into your console in game. It'll teleport you to where the nade was thrown from. We've also got copy at mention, which we'll come back to a little later. That allows you to paste the mention for that nade into a strat directly. And then also view demo, which will take you to the 2D demo viewer so you can see the round that nade was thrown in. You can set names for a nade, so you can just go in and suggest a name, and this is a jungle from outside elbow. We'll add Molotov in there as well. You can hit submit there, and then you can use this nade, and that's how it will show up in your mentions when you use them in the strat editor, and it's also how it will show up when you actually open it in the Pro Nade database as well. Now, because this is an automated system, you do end up with some common nades that are thrown on the fly that aren't particularly interesting, right? So if we look here, we can see there's quite a few that have just been thrown, and these will be completely on the fly. This will be pre-smoking the Molotov, just like that. Now, we prefer to keep these in, and we will go through occasionally and do a pass where we group them together to keep this less cluttered, but in our belief, it's better to give you more information and more options than less, and potentially have you miss out on a piece of utility that you really wanted. Nades might be stacked on top of each other. You can see here these spawn smokes. They're from slightly different places. They're overlapping a little bit. And so what we've done is if you hold down Control, you can just drag a box over, and you see you've selected 3 nades here. And if you click View, you can see all 3 of them. So now you've not only got all of the nades. You've also got alternate lineups potentially from the same spot. And so you can see here, this one is one of the spawn smokes aiming at this little brick, this one's aiming at the plant, and this one again at the plant. So you can really use these to help you line stuff up and see different variations of given smokes. Now, if you've liked nades, you can go up to your liked nades at the top right here, and you'll get a list of all of the nades that you've liked in the past. You can see here, this is one of the spawn smokes. You can use the ProNade database to really get up-to-date nades, and it's so easy to get around with the filters. You can click here, bang, we're getting a spawn smoke straight away. So jump in and get using it. We say all the pro nades accessible in a freeze time, and that genuinely is true. If you keep this open in your in-game overlay, you can access whatever nade you need for a round within the freeze time. Now, this is the Pro Demo Vault. We have thousands of professional demos automatically updated, ready for you to view in the web client. And there's lots of options here. You can filter by team. For example, if I want Liquid's demos, I can either search for it up here in the top right and click on Liquid, or I can just click on the name of them in the list, and you can see all of the Liquid demos filtered down. If we want to filter to just their Mirage, we can do that as well. We'll click on Mirage and we'll load into the demo viewer. This is the main interface that you're going to be seeing. Now, you can, first of all, just take a moment and customize it to how you'd like it. For example, these nameplates might be a little bit too small for you. That's fine. We've got plenty of options. You can make them much larger if you want. Resetting the zoom on the round change. So, for example, if I set this to yes and I zoom in and then I go to the next round, it resets me, zooms out back to the beginning. But maybe you don't want that. It starts as off. You can keep it on off. Fading players on other elevations. This doesn't apply to Mirage, but maps like Nuke or Vertigo, rest in peace. I'm just going to jump in quickly here to show you the lower feature on a map like Nuke. So in the settings, you can fade players on other elevations. You can see Resd is down here on the bottom. And then we have this toggle, which swaps you down to the lower view. And this helps because Nuke is a map that is very difficult to understand from the top down unless you are able to split the radars like this. Auto advance to the next round. Maybe while you're watching these demos through, you just want to go to the next round as soon as the first one's finished. You can turn that on here. And then also automatic zooming, where we keep everything in focus for you so you can sit back and watch the demo completely hands-free. The controls are fairly standard. You've got a play and pause button down here. You've got speed controls here. Now you can use space as well to pause and resume, and you can use 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your keyboard, as you can see down here, to switch between the playback speeds. Scroll is zoom. You can click and drag to move around as well, so you can really drill down if there's something important happening that you can't quite see. Now the layers section at the top right, you can see you can toggle things on and off. You can also hide all like this, and it just hides stuff completely. You can hide smokes per side. You can also hide projectiles per side. So that'll be any nade that's in the air. And then infernos, which would be Molotovs, essentially. As well as that, you can toggle the bomb on and off, and comments, which we will get into in a little bit. Now, the demo viewer is fully integrated with our ProNade database. So if we have a demo in the database that has a nade lineup, we will show it to you. And you can see here, there's a little video icon next to this Molotov, and we can open that one up and we can see the exact lineup that was used to Molotov this part of the map. You see bouncing it off that little bit of angled wall there. So you don't have to go into game, which is incredibly useful if you're trying to figure out a strat from the 2D demo viewer. You don't have to go and look up the utility. It'll likely be here for you already. If you click on a player, we'll copy the setpos command to your clipboard, and so you can paste it in. So if you've got a player in an interesting angle, perhaps an AWPer is holding a position, you can see exactly what they're seeing just by pasting it into the game. Now, similarly to other demo viewers in the space, we have noses on the player pawns here. So you can see Insani, he's got his knife out currently, and that's a little sharp pointy thing there. Now these little short stubby noses here are for an SMG or a pistol, and then also for a rifle you've got a more standard length nose here. So even just looking from the top down, you can see roughly what weapon somebody's got. Now on the sides here, this is standard to what you'd expect in a broadcast UI in a sense. we have the weapon that's currently in the player's hand here, and then we have the best weapon that that player has. You might have a player running around with a knife out, for example, but they've got an MP9 in the back pocket, and so it lets you see the buy even if the players have different pieces of utility out. You can see here knife, 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 but we know that Klim has a scout. We can see that Exit has an MP9, and we can see that Branson has an MP9 as well. The utilities there, the money that the players have is also there, the type of Kevlar, standard stuff, and of course the bomb. Now, for those of you on our team plan, if you want to create a strat from this round, for example, you want to convey this to your team, you can do that in two ways. You can first of all copy the mention, and that will allow you to paste that into your strat or your document to reference back to this round, or you can just create a strat directly from the viewer here, and you can see we'll preload it with a title, with a summary as best as we can, and then that's in there, which means your team can get back to this demo for reference in future. Now, if you're demoing something to your team, you can right click and you can go into drawing mode, or you can click on the drawing tool on the left here, and that will allow you to draw on the map. You can draw as much as you want, and then you can either undo or you can clear completely. We've got a few different colors for you to use there, and these are great because they stay on the map completely fixed as well, so you can zoom in and out. They'll stay exactly where they are. It allows you to illustrate a point if you're screen sharing in practice, or even for broadcast work as well. Now down here on the timeline, you can see that we have different icons for gun rounds and half buys or semi-ecos, so you can see what the economy status is of the team that you're looking at as you're switching rounds. Just going to show you one more feature, and this is comments. Now, back when I was competing, I always thought the ways of giving feedback, other than obviously joint demo watching sessions where you watch it together, were a bit terrible, really. Like, you would be watching a demo, you'd maybe create notes in like a Word document or something, and you'd send that to your teammate. But the problem is you then have to tag, okay, so at 146 on round 12 and all of that. You don't have to do that with Stratbase now. You can add comments immediately in the 2D demo viewer. This pick here, Brands and peaks and dies, right? Now, there's no utility to support him here. We are making a little bit of an assumption. But if this happened in a game and you had feedback that you wanted to give to your teammate, you can now right-click in the demo and you can add a comment. Now, I'm going to tag, who am I going to tag? I'm going to tag Timo here because obviously I'm not on MIBR, but Timo's in my team. I'm going to say, maybe use a flash, or maybe call for a flash next time. And we'll hit save, and that adds the comment in context. So as you're playing through the demo here, this context will automatically appear. We store both the time that the comment was saved at and the position. And so you can give feedback to your teammates with context. And of course, these can be toggled off if they're getting a bit cluttered on your screen with the layers tool. And that comment will notify Tim. So if I add another comment and I tag myself, just as a demonstration here, you can see it immediately appears down here. Index mentioned you in a comment on the Starladder Budapest Major Stage 2 MIBR versus Liquid demo. And if I click that, it'll take me to this round. And then I can look through and I can see, oh, okay, somebody has given me a comment. And of course, you can delete it, which I'm going to do to not clutter up this demo. And then single view is great, but what if you want to have a look at the tendencies for a team? Now that's where multi-view comes in, which is this button here next to the team's name. So Liquid, T-side, by type we can filter down. We just want to see their gun rounds for the last, let's say for the last week, and we've got 19 rounds here. We can also switch to roster. So if a team has made roster changes recently, you can use this to maintain the same 5 players that you're seeing in this demo. But we'll just switch to using the team for now, and we'll click view rounds. And that's going to load all these rounds in the background, and just like that, done already. We've got a new players menu here and a rounds menu at the top here. So as you can see, hovering is switching between those different rounds. You can click into one, and then just like that, we have a single round playing. We can go back to the multi-view really quickly. Now, if you're looking for tendencies of a specific team, this might start to get a bit clustered. It might start to get a bit overwhelming. So this is where the filters really come into their own. The opposing team here, we may not care about what they're doing. So we'll turn them off here. And then because they're on the CT side, if we go into the layers tool, we're going to just turn off all of the CT utility as well. So now we can just see what's being effectively done by Liquid, right? This is just Team Liquid that we're seeing on the screen here. Now, if you want to drill down even further, let's say we're not interested in what anyone else is doing except for Suhei, whether that's because we're anti-stratting or whether that's because we're just, again, trying to look for tendencies. You can see straight away he spends the majority of his time at the top of middle, but there are 2 rounds here where he's gone into B apps and A ramp respectively. And we might be wondering why that is. So if we click him and then we can turn back on everything else, we can see the exact scenario. We can see that there are 3 players already in the top of middle here. Suhei is on ramp, kind of lurking. And then we can go back to the multi-view. And then if we revert, we can have a look at this round instead. And we can see here, this is much more of an all-in B play. So for example, if you get a kill on Suhei early on in the round, you could start to build up a picture of where everyone else in the team is based on his position. Now, let's say you wanted to go a bit further than that. So we're sticking on Suhei here. What if you just want to see all of the rounds where he's in top middle? I mean, it's a lot of them, but maybe you don't want to see this one or this one on the multi-view. So again, you can look at more tendencies. So we keep Suhei as the only player selected. Click on this filter button here. Now, it's on player mode already as depicted by this icon, and we can just draw a square over this. 89% of the rounds we can see, and we'll lock that in. We'll lock that filter in. Now, we get a second menu here. So we'll close this one down a bit. And we see filtered rounds. So out of the 19 available, 17 of them, Suhei's in this position. You can see it's appeared on the timeline as well. And so at that point, Suhei is in this box. We can see that 89% of the time. We even have the X and Y coordinates of the box there if you want it. And now we can just see those rounds. This example isn't amazing. Say you had a player which is 25% of the time, they went into underpass. That would be a lot better. In fact, why don't we do that? We'll clear off Suhei's filter here. And we'll just have a look at the multi-view. We can see, okay, there's a fair few times that Elige is in B apps here, but not all the time. You can see he's a lot more spread. And in fact, specifically, he's holding this position here. So we'll add a filter for Elige instead, and we'll lock that one in. And then we'll turn everything back on. So this is 26% of the rounds. And we can start to see a bit more of a familiar pattern. I mean, Suhei almost always at the top of middle here. But we can see as Elige makes his way through underpass, these look to be either A hits or A splits. With one time here, he's even got out onto the B bomb site, so we can turn this one down and have a look, and he is just going for a full lurk. So as you can see, you can start to build up much more context and get some really deep notes. And the best part is these filters stack. So if you want to add filters for extra players or extra utility, you can combine them. So for example, let's go back to the multi-view here, turn off the opposing team. So we've got one where Naf is in Palace as well. So if we just want to look at the rounds where Naf is in Palace and Elige is on ramp, we can lock that filter in again, and that drills it down even further. We've now just got 3 rounds. So you can really go as deep as you want using these analysis tools, or you can be as shallow as you want. But you can see here, these 3 rounds that we've selected, we've now discovered a strat from Liquid. So say you send your AWPer early into the round to get a pick in Palace and they take Naf down, there's a good chance that Liquid end up on the A-bomb site. Now, as well as the pro demos, if you go to the You or the Your Team section here, you can go into Your Team's demos as well. Now, you can upload them zipped, like they come from Faceit, for example, those ZST files. We'll handle that for you. And also, you can drop multiple demo files at once, and we'll upload them in the background. So as soon as you drag a demo file on here, you can keep navigating around Stratbase, keep using it without having to worry about staying on this page and waiting for those demos to upload. And multi-view works for these demos too. Just because it's not a professional demo, you can use the multi-view feature using the roster section here. Now you can see some of these don't have team names, so some of them are going to be from the pro section, but others are demos that I've just uploaded here. So if we cut that back to maybe 3 months, we can see we can load 30 rounds, go into full buys, and if we put it down to like anti-ecos, they haven't done any. Wow. semi-ecos. There we go. We love a force buy. And so you can get these insights from not just the pro demos, but you can also blend in your own demos as well. If, say, a tournament that isn't on HLTV, for example, if you're playing a LAN, you can download league demos and load these in and still use all of the analysis features that Stratbase has with that. Documents is a big one. Some of these can be linked to the demo viewer as well. Just by hitting the L key when you're watching a demo, you can create a document. So if you want to create notes that way rather than comments, you can do that if you'd like. There's a button that links you back to that demo. But also for things like keywords, for example, you can make a document here, and this doesn't apply to any specific strat or map. This is more of a global place for you to store things for your team. Now, moving on to the calendar, this is where you can create events for your team with specific types, a title, start time, all of that, filling in the calendar to make sure your team is organized and is on the same page. Now, we also have added iCal integration here. So you can see you can add in external calendar events using an iCal URL, which is something that prac.com provides, for example. So if you load the prac.com ICS link into Stratbase, it means that all of your prac will appear in the Stratbase calendar, and we sync it every 10 minutes. Now, the strats section, this is Stratbase's bread and butter. This was the initial feature that Stratbase launched with. This was what started it all. And this is it. So you can see there's a lot going on this screen. First of all, we'll hide the Your Roles section. We'll get into that in a minute. But you can see a list of strats here. We've got a group section. We can create groups. But here we've got these just sorted into defaults and pistols. This is from my UKIC mixed team. So we didn't have too many strats going on, but we had a couple of set pieces that we liked to get written down. Now, first off, filtering. You can filter by CT and T sides if you just want to look at those, or of course, both. Now, you've got the tags, pistol round execute here, the side, of course, and a little summary. If you don't like the summaries, you can just hide them. You've got a much more condensed view here, but the summaries help to add a little bit of extra context to some of these strats, which will help you out. Now, if we go into one of these strats, we can see here, this one's quite basic. It's a pistol round, it's a set play. We've got Penguin throwing a red room smoke, and we can see that's a nade from our Nade database. So this isn't the instant version. This is just a simple lineup and throw. Drops a flash to, now we've put third spawn here. This could be anybody on the team, and this will show up in everyone's Your Roles section. And then everyone else runs out mid into the red room smoke, LB decided. And again, this is a spawn tag here. Now, why do we use these tags? Well, if we go back to the strats on Ancient and open up the Your Roles section again, we can see all of the sections of the strats that have either me mentioned or a spawn mention are ripped out and given to you here in a condensed view. So if you don't need to know what everyone else is doing in the strat, you can get a quick refresher, keep this section open, and see what you need to do in your strats. Now, of course, you might have a stand-in come in, and at that point, they need to view this page as if they're someone else. Well, don't worry, we've thought of that as well. If you go view as teammate in the little 3-dot menu here, I can select one of my teammates, and now I'm viewing as Panthanax, or for example, I want to go in and view it as B-Dog, and we can see, here he is. Okay, this is where the magic happens. So I'm going to create a new strat here, and I'm going to very, very cleverly call it test strat. I'm going to mention myself here, and I'm going to we'll throw a pro nade. So this will load in the Nade database. It might take a little sec. There's a few nades to load in there, but I'm going to smoke short from outside the doors here. Perfect. Have a quick review of the video just to make sure that that's all right. Yep, I know that nade, and we'll make sure it lands where we want it to land. Skip ahead. Perfect. We'll use that. And as you can see, that's embedded with the title that we set on the nade as well. And then rush B. Nice. Now, quick summary. Fast B rush with short smoke. This is a set play. This is, let's say, a force buy strat. And we're using it on the T side. And then we can save our strat just like that. Now, when your teammates are viewing it, they can click on this. They can see the utility. And also, the mentioned part shows up here in test strat on the ungrouped section. Now, if I want to group this up, say I make a group, I'm going to call it set players, just like that. Then I can drag this in and save that, and now it's grouped. Now, after a while, this might start to become a little cluttered. You're a competitive team. You're constantly adding strats to your repertoire, and you want to split them into discrete playbooks. Well, I'm going to show you how you can do that. This is the Gameplans feature. So we can either go into the sidebar here, or because we're on Ancient already, let's just go to Gameplans up top. And you can see we've already got one here. You can see these 5 strats in particular have been selected for this game plan. But let's create a new one. We're going to call this one Super Aggressive. Now, this could not be easier. All you have to do is take your strats, drag them into the game plan. We're going to use this pistol round, then we're going to use this B lane contest, and we're going to create the game plan. And just like that, game plan created. And you can see on the view page here, we have them grouped by their type, and we've got them available here. We can click into them just like that. So a specific game plan is now accessible and creatable, so you don't have to look at the big list while you're playing. And so that is Stratbase. I really hope you find it incredibly useful for your team. That is the goal. That is ultimately my dream, is to help teams get better quicker. Thank you very much for watching, and please get stuck in.